But right now, we do want to get to Richard Devane, who is taking a look right now as we are looking at some live pictures. Still raining out there, Richard.
Absolutely correct, Jane. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning, everyone. Right here off of Sam Newell. This area, actually, we had it flooded yesterday with all that heavy rain, and as you can tell, it's beginning to pond. Actually, it's gone down a little bit in the last little bit, but you see those flashes. That's the concern this morning, as of course this is Irvin's Creek right here, which runs around the Sam Newell Independence Point Parkway area, and that is one of the areas that actually had this water, this heavy rain that we got yesterday, causing some of the banks to jump over in this area and a lot of areas in our viewing area, causing flooding throughout the area. Right now we're looking, and right now I don't know if Ruben can get down in that area right over there where you can see if it's actually about to go over that concrete flow wall. And that's the concern, as if there's any debris or anything. And in this case, I'm not seeing a lot of debris, but I do see that it is really beginning to rise. Now, we're not even at the levels that we were yesterday as far as the heavy rain, but we get consistent rain on top of consistent rain. The waters don't get a chance to really recede. And that's the issue that a lot of folks are going to be facing today. At a point when they will be trying to dry out, clean up, they're not going to be able to because we're being pelted with more rain. Now we know that some areas got more than others, but anywhere from 2 to 5 inches is something that we're seeing right here in Charlotte, in our area, down to South Charlotte, and of course Rock Hill getting hit pretty heavy. Well, some areas that were normally flood prone, and we see flooding all the time, we didn't see it, and then some areas that we don't normally see flooding in, we see it. So that's the way it is with flash flooding. You have to be very careful and pay attention to what we're reporting and what we're giving you out here. Of course, you see cars splashing by. You want to make sure, as you're making your morning commute today, to take it slow. Slow down, take your time, because just a little bit of rain or can cause trouble under the rubber, so to speak, and send your car spinning. And of course, if you see, and this is the important thing, if you see any standing water, we don't want you to try to navigate through that. I don't care what you're driving, if it's an SUV, definitely not a little sedan or something like that. But no matter what it is, if you see standing water, like Majestic was saying this morning, you don't know what's under it, you don't know how deep it is. Even if it's an area you've traveled before, it's best to be safe than sorry. Of course, this rain is going to continue, at least we're told, until midday. So we should see some more ponding, some more pooling, if you will, around our area. And folks are going to have to pay close attention to us and also to their conditions outside, taking precautions and making sure that they and their loved ones are safe. It's raining, Jane. It's raining. I'm getting wet, but that's what we do, right?
I know. You got to be out there, boots on the ground. Richard, Chris Mulcahy is in the Live Impact studio with us now. And Chris, you've been talking to Richard as well this morning.
Yeah, well, I haven't got to talk to Richard, so hello, Richard. Good to see you. I'm glad that your undershirt is dry, at least for the time being. But I just wanted to specify, I have one site that's the Irwin Creek right near our station. Is that kind of where you're at? Or where exactly are you again?
No, Irving's,
okay.
Near Patriot Independence Point Parkway. Irving's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and Irwin. Irving.
All right, because I was going to say we have, I thought you said Irvin. I was saying we have Irwin, so Irving's. Well, both of them are rising, clearly, as Richard was saying. But, Richard, we're going to let you go, but please keep us updated if anything starts to quickly rise, as we are starting to see here. Because I also want to direct your attention here to the most recent update I had around the Little Sugar Creek. And the Little Sugar Creek is actually up to about a 3-foot rise over the last 35 minutes, or at least for the most recent update that I had. So if we can go to graphics, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Again, thank you so much, Richard. It is wet out there, but things have actually improved a little bit. You can see that right along the Greenway, this is pretty much close to Elizabeth Park, the Little Sugar Creek at 4th Street. quickly rising, but nothing like what we saw. Now, I don't have a reading where Richard was as far as that monitor, but since I was looking at the Irwin Creek, which is close to the Billy Graham Parkway, that's actually risen over the last hour about 3 feet as well, but we're not seeing a big rise because that one right here is just using that as an example, is at about 5 feet. It was at 9 feet yesterday. So levels are roughly anywhere from 3 to 6 feet lower than where we were at this point yesterday because the rain is a whole lot lighter. So look, getting right to it, check it out. This is the rainfall that we're seeing right now. We're actually dealing with a lot of dry air starting to work back into this system. And here, I'll show you a little bit more on our water loop layer here. Seeing a little bit more of those yellows is a good indication that, hey, you're not really having those hefty rain rates like what we saw yesterday. And earlier on our Plus channel, on the other side, in the different studio that we do this, I showed you something in perspective because weather oftentimes will repeat itself, but sometimes it's really good to compare it to the previous event. So this right here is showing a loop from 8 to 9 o'clock for today's radar. I want to show you what yesterday's radar looked like from 7 to 10. Check it out. Notice the difference? You're seeing a lot more of those yellows and those oranges and still more to come. At this point, Rock Hill had about 2 inches. That total doubled through the course of this morning. So I'm gonna go back to today, the Doppler radar, compared to what we had yesterday. And yesterday was also a much wider system as well, with a promise of more rain that could come behind that. So we aren't looking at the same setup because check it out. This is today. We're actually seeing a big reduction as far as the intensity of this. Here, I'm going to move this back over the last 4 hours because I want to show you the difference that this thing has done. It was a lot more impressive about 3 hours ago. Now we're starting to see a lot more of those lighter greens work in. So this band is weakening in general. It doesn't mean that it's not going to strengthen back up again. The big difference today also is that we've actually had some thunder. Some of us heard some thunder this morning. It wasn't a lot, and we had some hefty rain rates over 1 inch per hour, but they didn't last as long. And also, the system is speeding up instead of slowing down like yesterday. So we are not going to see that 5-inch mark like what we saw yesterday, but those totals were absolutely astronomical. Here, I made this graphic. The final totals for the 36-hour period that really accounted for Monday night and Tuesday. Look at Collinswood Elementary. Remember how we were mentioning that yesterday, Jane? Yeah. Now, over 5 inches was the final total. YMCA Camp Thunderbird, over 5 inches. And then areas like Lake Wiley Elementary, this morning they were seeing up to about 1/10 of an inch per every 5 minutes initially, but it didn't last long. But they saw 4.5 inches yesterday. Meanwhile, Providence High, over 4 inches. So these values are not going to be hit. And that's the reason why we had such bad flooding yesterday, Jane, is because you had these values in a small area with the concrete all flowing into little places like the Greenways and Little Sugar Creek.
Yeah, I mean, monumental amount of rain there in the last day and a half. So no surprise now that I see all these totals.
Yeah, and also to build on that, Rock Hill, believe it or not, actually had a record rainfall because the most rain to ever fall in Rock Hill since they started record keeping that was back in 1999, was over 5 inches in one single day. And Helene is the culprit for that. But what was interesting about yesterday is we actually saw over 4 inches of rain across Rock Hill. And hold on, sorry, it froze on me. Yesterday saw about 4.33 inches of rain. That's the third most in a single day. And most of the time that we're talking about a single total over 4 inches, there's some sort of remnant tropical system, or like last year we saw over 4 inches of rain a given day. That was from the leftovers of Debbie. The fact that this was just light to moderate rain with heavy patches, nothing to do with the tropical system, and no thunderstorms shows how rare yesterday's event was. So the rain totals today aren't going to be nearly as vast. So far this morning, for the most recent update, we've had over 1 inch right around Rock Hill and then 85 hundredths of an inch around Charlotte. These totals, I think, will eclipse the 1 inch mark. Some areas maybe could see up to 2, but it's more so going to be on the eastern side of our viewing area that I think could see a little bit more, because that's where I think they could be dealing with a little bit more of the thunderstorms. That's why that area is under that green. That's for Stanley, Anson, and Richmond County. Sorry, it says air quality alert, but it also shows the flooding there for the areas off towards the east. I also like to come up with stats. Yesterday not only was a wet day, it was also a cold one. That officially through 5 days of August, we are now the 5th coldest start to August in Charlotte history, dating back to 1879. And we just got done being the second hottest.
of July. Hottest July, or one of the hottest Julys, now one of the coolest Augusts. It's wild.
And we just can't really get back to normal, but eventually I think we are going to see a nice little change. We are going to see those temperatures try to get up to about that 90-degree point that we should be at for this time of the year, but it's realistically not until really the middle of August. August 13th is our next forecasted high of 90 degrees, so that's just outside of the 7-day. Okay, so getting back to our Doppler radar, the rain situation is actually heading in a really good direction, I'm happy to say, since we are seeing less rain rates that are now moving behind this. We don't have the heavier widespread rain that we had yesterday. Still not a good setup. If we even had this last a little bit longer, I think that we could easily get back to some minor flooding. And I'm not discounting that we're not going to see a flash flood warning or anything like that, but notice off towards the east. That's where you're seeing most of the activity. So these rain rates are going to be a lot higher the further east that you go. And hey, this rain down towards the south also has a chance to swing back up into the eastern zones as well. So we're not done yet. We're not out of the woods, but the setup is much better for us to not have flash flood warnings today compared to what we had yesterday. Still hasn't been good. I think the creeks are still going to rise. We're going to continue to see that rise at least a foot per hour over the next couple hours, sometimes maybe even 2 to 3. So some of those greenways I would definitely stay off of because they're going to be flood prone. A lot of them will have signs saying, hey, don't use this. And one thing to note, this is not unusual for the greenways to flood. We see it all the time because they're actually designed to do so because they want the water to flow down there along the streams. That's why there's usually an elevated wall there to kind of trap it there instead of businesses and different homes. And James did a great explainer about this yesterday, that a lot of homes were bought up by Mecklenburg County because they didn't want to have to really deal with the flooding for those homes since they were in a floodplain. And realistically, you should be checking your floodplain maps every single year because they're constantly changing, especially with the new construction. So we have a little trough off towards the west. That's about to fade out, and that's going to allow the rain to get out of here. So looking at our futurecast is leading us in actually a pretty good direction. I'm really happy with the nice improvements we've seen over the last hour or so. So I think our futurecast will have our rain out of here by about, hold on, right there. By about 10 o'clock, I think you have the heavier rain. I think you will have some general light to moderate rain that's going to be behind this. Actually, I like this model better. Let's do this one. All right, here we go. This one right here, I think, keeps the rain around because I actually did a grid adjustment on this. So what this means is us meteorologists, we don't have to just depend on a model. A model can say one thing, but we can adjust the time, the intensity, bring it up percentage-wise. We can adjust the distance, west to east, to north to south. So I moved this one around a little bit to match up with the current conditions, and I've been doing that throughout the morning. So I think that heavy rain that I was showing you down in South Carolina, it is going to swing back up to our eastern zones. We're still going to keep some rain around till late morning, that lighter variety. But the heaviest rain, just in the areas that are under that flood watch, could see as much rain as what we saw yesterday. So upwards to that 2 to 3 inches plus of rain over in Anson and Richmond County. That's going to last as late as about 2 to 4 o'clock, especially our eastern zones like Richmond County. I think you have the chance for the longest duration of rain outside of what we've already seen so far this morning. And then by the evening, everything is clear. But as you can see for Charlotte, by about the early afternoon, so about noon to 2, we're pushing this activity out of here. And believe it or not, we actually have a chance for thunderstorms in Asheville and up in the mountains as they're going to see some sunshine. And the sunshine does look like it wants to come back out tomorrow. So if you've missed it, it is coming. Even by the end of the day, instead of it being overcast, it'll be a brighter overcast. Ooh. And some areas might even see a spot of blue sky. But I think by tomorrow, you definitely have a better chance. Certainly for the Panthers preseason game on Friday. Then we're back to the usual 20% chance for a pop-up shower or thunderstorm, especially this weekend as temperatures get a little bit warmer in the mid-80s. Believe it or not, thunderstorms sometimes enjoy the 80s more than they do the 90s just because of the profile. And then you don't see it here, and I showed you the 10-day. By about day 8 and 9, so next Wednesday and Thursday, we should be back to around 90 degrees. But for now, it feels like October. Then we have a September forecast, and then finally back to where we should be.
All right, so there's a chance we're going to see a little bit of this like yesterday?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be as vast. You're going to see some overwhelm streams, but use Richard's shot for an example. He said, at this time yesterday, this road was flooded. Well, at this time yesterday, we also had a lot heavier rain that was more widespread across the area. You still have rain, light rain that we're about to drive into, and here we can bring this back up. A light rain that is still on the backside of the heavier variety of showers is still going to cause a little bit of flooding, or at least keep the roads up, but you're not going to see the exact flooding that we saw yesterday. So check out this back end. You're seeing dry air that's working in. It's light to moderate, but you're not seeing the darker greens and the yellows and the oranges that we saw yesterday. Now, that's for Charlotte. That's for Rock Hill. But as I mentioned, all this rain down towards the south that is just south of our viewing area, north of Columbia, that is going to swing its way off towards the northeast. So areas from Lancaster over to Union County and areas east, you're going to have that second coming of rain. Charlotte's just kind of getting more of a break. That's also why our excessive rain map was mainly displaying the eastern side of our viewing area to be more problematic than what we have from Charlotte and areas west. So that's the area yellow, Lancaster over to Monroe. Charlotte is included because we have seen some heavy rain and a long duration, but really east of I-77 this time and southeast of Charlotte, much better chance for higher rain rates compared to what we had today in Charlotte, and actually maybe a little bit more similar to what we had in Charlotte there today compared to what we had yesterday.
All right, so a little bit of a 1-2 punch again these couple of days.